Gardiner is Director of DoD and Distinguished Technologist for Hewlett Packard Enterprise, HPE. Bond, thanks for joining me today. You mentioned a moment ago that you're hearing lots of discussion on the floor about multi-domain operations. What do you think's driving that?
I think a lot of things are driving it. World climate right now is huge. I think what we're seeing across the board is a migration to the edge, leveraging AI for all the right reasons. And I think, so for MDO itself, I think there are a couple of big gaps. One particular that DoD and industry really need to partner together on to help solve. And I think for me, it's really trying to, there's a big seam that needs to be integrated when it comes to data, effects, and decision making. And it needs to be across all these domains. So air, land, sea, space, cyberspace. And when you start dealing with coalition environments, just further complicates things a little bit. But I think, to me, that's one of the big things that we've got to solve for. And I hear a lot of buzz about that on the floor.
What are the solutions that the Army and the other services are looking for, and what's available to them to try to reinforce that scene?
Okay, well, I would tell you, I don't think we need to replace a lot of compute or anything like that. I think some of it's policy, some of it's technology, it always is. But in this case, I think it's the DoD partnering with industry, again, to figure out how to close the gap. And it starts with trusted data, trusted sources, and full integration. So the ability to deliver the data and the information to the decision makers in a timely fashion so we can outpace our adversaries. I think time and trust are going to be two ingredients for any MDO operation moving forward, and they're going to be the key to victory at the end of the day.
Is DoD getting better at getting that information to industry in your view? Are they being more open about telling you what they need instead of what they have to have through a list of requirements?
Francis, I tell you, that's kind of a double-edged sword. In some cases, yes. They know what they want, but they haven't got it yet. I think they have a sense of a capability, a capacity that they need, they desire to help speed their decision-making processes so they can outpace our adversaries. But a lot of times it's not until they see it, touch it, feel it, use it, do they actually understand what the capability is. A prime example of that for me is artificial intelligence. So using AI to augment and support decision-making, sift through mountains of data, sensor data, information, you name it, whether it's ELINT, SIGINT, you name the source. But being able to sift through that in short order and come up with something that is actionable, that you can give to a decision maker, and then getting that information to a trigger puller, whether that's an air breather or on the ground, or you have it in a timely fashion, is what it's all about.
It strikes me that that could be simultaneously a lot more challenging than fulfilling requirements, but also a lot more liberating than fulfilling requirements.
I think it absolutely is. And I think one of the keys to that aspect of it is that industry needs to come to this with a little bit of a fresh perspective. There's been a lot of industry partners that have come to the fight, and they have a lot of proprietary capabilities. That does not lend itself to MDO. We've all lived this, I think, or seen this to some extent, where the different service components, whether it's air, land, space, cyberspace, operate in silos, and there's not a lot of good integration across. There's not a lot of open standards that are enforced. So having open systems that are trusted from the foundation up, so the compute, the transport, everything, to have it as open standards based on openness so it can be shareable and trusted, though, is absolutely critical. I think that's the foundational piece to all of it.
The wrinkle, I guess, going in that direction too, is that every person that I speak to in uniform, whether it's here or at some other event, mentions very quickly in an MDO environment, especially allies and partners. And you've got then a whole nother layer of different standards and so on, complexity that you add to that mix, I suppose.
You do, absolutely. And when you deal with open standards, it makes it so much easier for everybody to move forward with pace and with purpose. So especially when you get into coalition, data sharing, being able to share and trust the data you're sharing for decision makers is absolutely critical. So I go back to the two foundational decision pieces for MDO. It's really speed and trust. If you can get the stuff there fast, that's great. But if it's not trusted, it's not helpful. If you can get it there and it's trusted and you can get it there fast, that's a win for everybody.
Speaking of getting it there, earlier in the conversation, you mentioned the migration to the edge, and that's another issue that everybody in uniform that I talk to is talking about, especially establishing points at the edge where information and data can go from one to the other without having to come back to home base.
Absolutely.
What's the implication of that
Well, it's huge.
for the way that organizations think about all of these issues?
Oh, Francis, that is, to me, that is one of the biggest things. And that it comes down to operating in a DDIL or a contested environment, for sure. Our troops need to be able to operate, sustain, and execute in a disconnected fashion or disrupted fashion. The enemy gets a vote, Mother Nature gets a vote. So whether it's jamming or it's the weather or whatever else is going to stand in our way of executing the mission, the ability to be able to execute, operate through those periods of contestedness at the edge is what it's all about. There's going to be a lot of times when you don't have connectivity back with the echelons behind, and you're not going to get the decision from MAR4 PAC or the J6 or whoever it's going to be, the J3, the commander in the theater. You're going to be disconnected, and you're going to have to be able to figure out what you're going to do on your own with the information and the ability to execute and operate there when you're on your own, alone and afraid, disconnected until you can get reconnected. But the ability to process and have AI aided for decision making and those things of that nature at the edge are going to be absolutely crucial.
We have about 30 seconds left. What do you anticipate in a 2 to 5 year period will look most different about the MDO environment?
I think it's going to be what the DoD is pushing for right now, and it's breaking down those barriers between the silos, between the service components, and building in that interoperability, that integration, and healing those seams so that data can be shared and can be trusted across those silos so everybody can execute at the speed of need.
Fawn, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.